The Integrated Archive Service Administration Console is embedded directly in IBM Cognos Administration. The purpose of Integrated Archive Service is to preserve outputs outside of the content store for a longer period of time. As more and more outputs are saved to the content store, performance will gradually degrade, and a large number of outputs can make it difficult to upgrade your IBM Cognos installation. Many outputs are rarely used but are required to be retained because of regulations or other business demands. In the event that you need to retain content for a long period of time, or just have a great amount of content, the archive service can be used to move content out of the content store and into the archive service repository. The archive service repository is a shared database between the entire BSP integrated control suite. This will reduce the size of the content store while simultaneously increasing performance and making it easier to upgrade your IBM Cognos installation. Users will continue to have access to the archived outputs in a secure manner through the archive service. In the admin console, there are some options you can set as an administrator. At the top, there is a checkbox to enable or disable the archive service, as well as a text box to enter your license key. There is a checkbox to store outputs on a file system. Generally, it is acceptable to let the archive service repository become quite large. Even though over time the archive service may experience a decrease in performance because of its size, this is typically not a concern as the content store's performance is much more important and can benefit greatly by storing the outputs in the archive service. However, if you wish, you can specify a location to store the outputs to in a file system instead. By enabling this option, the archive service database is still used, but the actual data field of the outputs, which can be quite large, will be stored on the file system instead of the database. In a single server installation, we can use a relative path to IBM Cognos, which will store the data directly in the installation directly. Or if you wish, you can specify an absolute path. Or you can also supply a network path. If you have a multi-server installation with multiple ICS servers, then you must use a network share path. Otherwise, some outputs would be stored on one server, while others would be stored on another. The next option is where you can specify how often the archive service should poll the server for new output. The archive service will only poll the server for new content, and will not poll for content that it is already aware of. However, to eliminate any possible discrepancies, the archive service will run a full synchronization in the specified amount of hours. The synchronization will compare the entire archive service repository with all of the outputs in the content store to ensure a correct synchronization. Each time a synchronization occurs, a log file is created. This option lets us specify how many of the most recent logs to retain. In the Archive Location Filter section, we can specify exactly what we would like to be archived. We can select the entire environment, only public folders, or we can specify specific reports or folders. If the entire environment or only public folders is selected, we can create filters on the right to exclude certain areas of the content store. So in this case, I can specify to exclude the CS Documenter package. If Archive Selected Reports and Folders is selected, we can instead use the filters to select content that we would like to be archived instead of excluded. In this case, I'll only be archiving the CS Documenter package and nothing else. It's important to note that in order for the archive service to function correctly, you must specify administrator credentials in the General tab of the Integrated Control Suite admin console. If you make any changes to the options, you'll need to use the Save Changes button when you're finished. Below the options is the Run History section, which displays information about the most recent refreshes or synchronizations. You can force a refresh if you would like to poll the server now for new outputs, or you can also use the Force Sync button to synchronize the entire environment. While a process is running, you are able to see the status of the process as it is happening. You can use the buttons on the right to either cancel the process if you wish, or to view the run log history. For each process, you can see the status of the process, whether it was successful or failed, which mode it ran in, a refresh or a sync, how many outputs were found, processed, and downloaded, as well as if there were any errors. If we open the run log, we can see diagnostics information, as well as details about everything that was done while processing the outputs.